Then you're going to choose one of the strips from the baskets at your table, and you want to line it up at the top here, and we're going to use this as a kind of a ruler, and you just want to draw underneath that strip with a pencil. Okay, and so for my weaving here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw some lines that go from this line to the bottom of my fold. Okay, and I'm going, this is op art, so I want it to look interesting. So instead of just going straight up and down, I'm going to kind of curve them outward from the center here. So I'm going to start with a center line. So I just kind of found the center point. And then I'm going to scooch over and I'm going to make this one come out. So this is a diagonal line, that means it is slanted, and I'm going to do the same on this side. So I have a straight vertical, straight diagonal, and then I'm going to do another diagonal. And this one's going to be a little more slanted, and this one's going to go near the corner. Same thing on this side. So what I've done here is I've created symmetry. I've created the same on both sides. So if I were to cut this paper right in half, I have the same design on both sides. Okay, so now I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut on these lines. Notice how my paper is still folded. And you want to stop at that horizontal line that you drew going across. Now here's something just to be careful of. So if you're going to be doing this kind of weaving, so you have your straight line, your two diagonals on either side. Okay. What I want you to notice how my diagonal line went way over here. So I'm going to cut it open and show you what this is. You see what happened? These aren't connected. We don't want that. So when you draw your line over here, you got to make sure that line gets to the bottom, not the side. So this line should look more like this. Notice how it's hitting the bottom. You don't want to get it too close to that corner. Okay. This one should probably come in a little more like to here instead of way over here. Because it's going to be hard to do the weaving when you have all these pieces that are not together. Okay? So make sure it looks more like this. Center, two diagonals, but don't get them too close to the corner. Leave a little space. Okay? Okay, so now you want to open it up. And now what we have done is we've created little slits in our paper, and this is going to be called the warp part of our weaving. And then we're going to use cut up strips as our weft part. So the weft is what you're going to weave through the paper, okay? So I'm going to do rainbow order here. So red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and violet. Those are the colors I'm choosing. You don't have to do rainbow order. It is up to you, but I'm just going to get these to the side, get them ready for me. So I'm going to start with red. And when we weave, you want to think about going over, under, over, under, over, under. So we have these slits here to let us do that. So I go over this first part, I lift this part, and I go under. Over the next one, pick up the next, under. Over, under, over, under, over, under. Okay, like that. And then you want to scooch it up to the top. Now this is a little long, I'm going to trim it. If yours is too long, you can trim it, but if it's the right size, just let it be. Okay, so I went over, under with the red. Now my next one, I'm choosing orange. This time I'm going to go under, over, under, over. So I got to go under the first part. And then I push it through, over, under, over, under, over. Okay. Now the next one I go back to over, under, over, under. So we kind of make a pattern here. So over, under, over, under, over, under. And you should already start to be seeing a kind of an optical illusion, like these are kind of going back into space a little bit. When I start under, over, under, over, under, over, scooch it up. Then back to over, under. And here on the edges, it's kind of hard because my edges are super tiny, so just make sure yours gets where it needs to be. And back to under, over with the violet. All right, so now I've used my colors of the rainbow, so I'm just going to go back and start again. So I'm going to go back to red. Okay, so what I've done here is I've created an optical illusion. It kind of looks like almost like this is a box. Here's like the corner of it, and it's going back into space, playing with our eyes. And what we want to do now is we want to glue all of our strips down so they don't slide out. So you just want to lift up each edge and put a little dot of glue and lay it flat. And then you also need to do that on the back side as well. Then what you just need to do, just to make sure any edges that are a little off, just trim them up. And here we've created an optical illusion weaving. Okay, so this is kind of the same idea, except I'm just going to show you a little variation. So for this one, what you can do is you can draw your lines, instead of making them straight diagonal, you can kind of bubble them up, so curve them a little bit. But remember, you don't want to get too close to the edge there. So these are just a little curved, and then you can weave using this style as well. So there's a lot of cool options with this assignment. So for this one, I'm choosing a contrasting color. So I'm looking at my color wheel, and the color on the opposite side is its contrasting color, and it's also called its complementary color. So if this is violet, if I go across on the color wheel, yellow is its complement. Notice how yellow stands out really nicely from violet. And then I'll just begin weaving over, under, and I'll see what happens with this type of design, and if it gives me a neat optical illusion. Okay, and then I would glue down my edges, so you can see this way it looks neat and interesting. This way it looks, I think, even more interesting. Really playing with your eyes there. It almost looks like kind of like a mouth or lips or something. It almost looks like it's moving too. So this gives a really neat optical illusion here. So we have options on how to make it play with our eyes. You can choose just 2 colors, or you can play with more colors. And this is our optical illusion weaving assignment. Okay, so we're finished with the weaving, but I want to add a little more finishing touches to it, so it's not just this. So we're gonna mount the work. So I've cut paper to the appropriate size, and what you guys need to do is lay your work roughly in the center of the paper so you're creating a frame around all of the edges. And you're gonna take a pencil, trace around it's a little tricky because the weaving is a little bumpy, so I'm going to have to erase some of those marks that I made. Okay, so now I have it traced, so now I know where my weaving is going to be on this paper. And you have two options. So my first option is, this is kind of a simple option, but I'm just going to like cut a cool design. But I don't want to get too close to my line here because then it won't remain a frame around the weaving. So I'm just cutting like the zigzags out of the paper here just to make it more interesting to look at, since this project is all about what we're looking at. It's all about optical illusions. And I just want our eyes to kind of almost be overwhelmed with this project, which sounds a little funny. So I will recycle my scraps. And then what I can do is I can take my weaving and I can glue it on here. And now it has a nice interesting frame, which is more fun to look at. So I'm just going to put a frame of glue, and then I'm going to do like a wavy line down the center. It's going to need a decent amount of glue just because the paper is thick. Okay, so now from here, you have the option to leave it like this, which looks pretty, or you can actually draw on your frame if you would like to, and you can use some of these patterns that I will have printed out that kind of give you optical illusions. So like, for example, here's one. It looks like this is actually woven like thread, but really it's just all drawing. And here on the back, it teaches you how to create that type of pattern. So if you want to, you can draw that on the frame, and that will give us a whole ton of stuff to look at, and that's going to really give us a good optical illusion, not only in the weaving, but in the frame itself. So I have started one here. This is a frame that I'm doing for my other weaving, this weaving. And what I've done is I did the same process where I traced the weaving, and I didn't make the zigzag cuts. I'm leaving it as a rectangle, and then I broke it up into squares using a ruler, and then I drew circles in every square, just in different parts. Notice how, though, I colored them every other one. So this one I colored in black, this one I left white. Black, white, black. And I did that all the way around. Now this took me a while, but that's okay because good art, remember, takes time. So then what I'm doing is I'm just creating more circles around that original tiny circle. And then you color in every other one. So this one's black, so I leave this one white, and then I'll color in this one black. So we're creating a pattern. On this one, I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm going to keep making circles around it, but this time I color in the different ones. So this circle is white, so that means the circle right around that one needs to be black. So it's opposite of the one I just showed you. And then I skipped this one was white, and then I just fill in the rest of that square with black. And there I've made a pattern of white, black, where this one is black, white, white. And then I just keep doing that in every square. And you don't have to do this pattern, you can do any of the other ones that I have available to you. This is just the one I chose because I like this one. I think it really messes with your eyes a lot, and that's my goal here in this assignment. Okay, so I finished with that frame, and now I just need to glue my weaving onto it. So I put a frame of glue, just like I did before on the other weaving, and a wavy line down the center of it. Okay, so here you have a beautiful optical illusion artwork, optical illusion in the weaving itself and an optical illusion in the frame. This one is your more simple of an option, where it's just the weaving and you didn't do much optical illusions with the frame. We just made the frame a little more interesting. But please try to notice the difference. If you can push yourself to be creating more art like this, go ahead and push yourself. Remember, good art takes time. If it takes time, that's okay. If this is a little difficult for you, then just stick to here, okay? So you have two options for you with the weaving optical illusion assignment.